This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. John, good to see you and be with you. Thank you for being with us.
Always a pleasure. Doing it a day late, but that's all right. Don't you think?
So I'm going to talk about what did not happen at the state legislature last week before we talk about what did happen. What did not happen was they did not extend the special session and continue to take up a bunch of issues not on the governor's special session call. A, were you surprised by that? And B, why do you think they did not take up those extra issues?
I was, as I said here last week, I had reason to think that they might not, even though I couldn't safely predict that because it's hard for some of these folks to take a position aligned with the Democrats on issues affecting critical race theory or abortion, which were going to be topics if they extended. I simply didn't know. So either way, it didn't surprise me. I did learn something over the week, and in sort of the post-mortem analysis of what happened, they smartly didn't get to really a specific vote on will you extend for abortion or will you extend for critical race theory in either house. And what they ended up voting on is adjourn right now, and that was a mild difference. But the main thing is, I think, and what I'm picking up talking to people after, is that there was widespread, let me not say widespread, significant Republican legislative resistance to what they saw as their colleague Jason Rapert's attempt to overly politicize the session by advancing his lieutenant governor's campaign by championing this Texas abortion law. I think there were several Republicans who thought that's really not, we don't like that, and it may have been because they don't want to help him in the lieutenant governor's race because they favor or have an open mind toward Leslie Rutledge or Doyle Webb. I heard that more than anything else. Then when you combine that with just the pragmatic view that we don't need to do this right now, these aren't emergencies, I think that's what happened. I wasn't surprised, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd gotten to a vote on, say, by Trent Garner to do critical race theory. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised had it passed in the Senate. Not sure about the House. As President Pro Tem of the Senate, Jimmy Hickey, told me, he argued with his substitute motion that this is not the time to do these things or the right temperature. He didn't argue against either the abortion bill or against the critical race theory bill, and he told me the abortion thing, we're plenty pro-life, we don't need to do a legally dubious thing, but he said on that critical race theory bill, if I vote on that someday, I may cast a vote that you, meaning me, will not like. So that's all of those things contributed to what was all blow struck for practical governance, and it was welcome, if only as a brief Christmas gift to us.
A Christmas gift for you, for sure. So let's talk about what they did do last week. They did pass the largest income tax cut in Arkansas history, lowered that top rate. Eventually, it will go down to 4.9% under certain parameters there and reform those tax brackets. There was some resistance to doing that. Democrats and some advocacy groups kind of came in very late to the game and made some pitches for some other things, but the handwriting was really on the wall already. This was going to sail because the governor secured the votes before he called the session, right?
He secured the votes before he called the session. He put it off until he had them. Let's face it, we're now overrun by Republican legislative majorities for 7 years and now going on 8. Asa Hutchinson has made a centerpiece of his governorship a steady reduction of income taxes in a state that he believes charges income taxes too high to be economically competitive, plus it's the Republican thing to do. There was, and then the way they fashioned it was going to be a simple majority vote. I mean, this thing was, boom, it was going to pass. And even the Democratic opposition was not total. They had Democratic defections that voted for it. My opposition, as I explained last week, is only lingeringly conceptual from this progressive thing that I've got in me, that I just don't like the idea of these tax cuts. I know that there are things the state could spend the money for that it needs to spend the money for, but there is no crisis evident. There is no human need on the front pages being unmet. There simply isn't. So, you know, it was going to pass. And we've managed for 7 years to gradually draw down tax rates and keep the budgets at continuing levels with continued growth. Benefited greatly lately by the pandemic money that the federal government sent, which gives us a false sense of security. But this is a tax cut that, if it turns out to be bad policy, it'll only be a matter of sheer math and economic performance that we can't see right now. So I never paid much attention to that issue because that was a lay down hand from the get-go, seems to me.
It seems like the thing that may have driven the special session call even more than securing the votes, because I think they've been there for a while, but I think the thing that may have secured it more was the fact that there was a $3 billion economic development project in Northeast Arkansas that there needed to be some money and incentives put in place for. And this may have been what was driving the timing of the call. You and I speculated. We didn't know why.
I speculated incorrectly or ignorantly as to that explained a lot, didn't it? That oh, by the way, this is something we need to do, and there has some degree of urgency. So yeah, and you know, it was quite a week. You didn't ask about Ace Hutchinson, but I'll tell you briefly. It's quite a week for him in a macro sense. He continues to be a conservative enough Southern Republican governor who has drawn down taxes significantly in the state, once in Bill Clinton's state, solidly Democratic a quarter century ago, long considered the most Democratic state in the South. In the meantime, he's fashioned this national image where he's out here as a non-Trump Republican, but conservative enough to argue against mask mandates in a CNN debate with the mayor of New York City. If I was shooting arrows right now, I'd give him an arrow up on that basis, in whatever his plan may be post-gubernatorially.
Well, Governor Hutchinson will appreciate your up arrow. I'm certain of that. He'll probably even call and let you know. So,
well, he might not. I think he watches this from time to time, though. So we appreciate it.
All right. He is John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to be with you as always.
Robbie, I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.